to this week's episode of The Blithe and the Blind. That's right, you found us whether you wanted to or not. I'm Joy.
I'm Julie. I'm the blind.
And I am just happy to be here.
No, she's not. She's a liar.
Some days.
She's like,
all right, let me try again. I'm here, queer, and living in existential fear.
It's true. There you go. I found a shirt I showed your dad yesterday. For those of you who don't know, we're related. So
That's my mom.
Yeah. So it says, now that's what I call, those.
You're right.
Yeah. It says, now that's what I call anxiety. I was like, I need to get that for somebody I love. But it looked like the album cover, y'all.
I still want the gluten shirt. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. The gluten shirt, and the demon shirt.
I want the Pride Demon shirt so much.
Pride Demon. So happy Pride, everyone. Speaking of which, happy Pride, my little Pride Demons out there.
It's June. It's time to be gay. Remember to turn it on at the beginning of the month. Turn it off by the end.
Yeah, it's Los Gibbities.
That's how it works,
right? Los Gibbities.
Los GBDs. Thanks, Des.
Yes, we love you, Des. You will never see us, but we love you. We may tag you, but you have come up with some of the best things that we use in our lexicon. Des's mom has come up with some things. If you don't follow Des, go follow Des. It's not a paid advertisement. And Des the Les does not need us to
their stuff.
And by the way, thank you, 26 randos. We have an average of 26 randos that watch us, and considering we have a zero PR, so if you find us, we love you and you love us. We don't know why, but thanks for coming. So, but yeah, Pride Month. So we were talking last episode. We were talking about language.
Well, creative outlets and language.
But we ended with language, and language, foreign languages I suck at, but the tie together really is that language is important, right? To be able to find common language between us, like in a nation that is divided, y'all, on so many things. Like, for example, do you like black licorice? Yeah. Do you like black licorice or do you not like black licorice? That's a divisive thing. Candy corn.
Black licorice is nasty. I
said it too, but your father loves black licorice. He's a wackadoo. Candy corn, it's divisive. It's a divisive thing. And let's talk about Pride Month. Why are rainbows?
I'm sorry, did you just group Pride Month with black licorice and candy corn?
I did, because of divisive things. And we're here to say, for us, it's let's make sure, if we're going to be divisive about something that's truly important, like black licorice or candy corn. But pride is no reason. Rainbows are not a divisive thing. They're just rainbows.
Fun fact, rainbows are a part of nature. It's a science thing.
They are.
And it turns out that when light hits certain conditions, similarly to a prism.
Right.
It forms
not prison. Not a prison. I'm sure rainbows show up in prisons, but prism.
Yeah.
Prism
think like Pink Floyd,
The Wall, right?
Exactly.
Right. The least gay. No, that's not true. That's kind of gay. It's sort of gay.
But a rainbow is a rainbow. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
If you see one out in public, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody supports the queer community. Or that
unicorns.
They don't support the queer community.
Same way.
It's just a rainbow. Little kids like rainbows. They have a lot of colors. All unicorns. Of the colors, technically.
Yeah. Same thing for a unicorn. I will keep saying it. Unicorns are the same. It does not necessarily mean gay. Sometimes it's just fun. They're so fluffy. Yes.
So we came out of the gate strong, and I don't care. We're going to keep going.
Yeah, we are. Because it's who we are. Number one. And if you're here, you know that by now. If this is your first episode with us, you're either going to stay or you're not, right? You're either you're staying or you're not.
If you don't, I don't want to see your negative comments.
Yeah, no, because we will drop negativity.
Not read them.
No, we won't. We don't care. We are very secure in our own selves, if you can't tell. And your negative comments mean absolutely bub kiss to us for that. But What we are here for is, and I put these together. We're welcoming, we're non-judgmental, but what we're not going to deal with is a hate mongering, bashing, any of that kind of crap. Like we said in the episode prior, if you're a jerk, we don't care for you.
That's like a jerk on any subject, really.
Yeah,
like
it's true.
Take your pretension and get out.
Right.
Like, we're pretentious, but about stupid things.
I was going to say, she's the only one allowed to be pretentious here. There's room for one of us.
Pretentious, but it's about the dumbest things.
Absolutely.
It's never about anything that really matters.
Absolutely not. I'm glad we recognized. Shall we put the mirror up for you today? Same.
No, it's still on my door. I gorilla glued it.
It's true. It's true. So we're going to talk about language. Language. You said, ma'am, madam.
I said.
You said that you were going to talk about your pronouns.
That is what I'm going to cover today. Yes.
Yeah.
So, sit down for the lecture.
Yay! Story time for grandma. Story time for grandma.
So, honestly, I want to start by saying I use the word queer a lot just because it is more of an umbrella term.
Yeah.
I personally find it to be the word that makes the most sense to other people when I'm describing anything regarding like my gender or sexuality or anything else they might question, because apparently that's just public knowledge stuff now. But I also know that the word queer was once used fully as a slur.
Absolutely.
So if it still makes you uncomfortable to hear it, I do apologize, but I will be using it repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, ask any 5th or 6th grader. It's still out there, right? And I'm going to say...
people still call things gay. Didn't mean that.
Yeah, so
middle schoolers mostly.
Think about the mentality of a 5th and 6th grader. If you're going to cut somebody to the bone in 5th and 6th grade, in the Wayback Machine, you're going to use slurs that are horrendous to those of us that hear them now. But it's, they're going to be F word, right? I'm going to say it, so don't come at me. The fags, the faggots, the queers, you're gay. What are you, fruity? That was one that one of my relatives used to use a lot.
I love asking people that, but it's usually when they're fully aware that we're both in the queer community.
But please note, please note for those of you out there listening, we don't use those negatively.
No. And we've experienced a family member who did.
150%. And
part of the reason we sometimes use these words.
Yes.
And it's going to sound dumb, but it's the reason we use it in like a safe context.
Right. And in our community, in our personal family community, we truly believe that words only have power if you allow them to have that power. And if you don't, then they mean nothing, right? They're just words. Words have zero context unless you put a context, you connect those contexts together. So, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, for those of you who are having issues kind of grasping what we're saying, because I know it can get confusing, think of it this way. You're out with your best friend and you do something stupid and they call you a butthole.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, haha. I mean, of course, more often than not, your friends probably use harsher language, but I'm trying not to get demonetized right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Versus you're at work and you're in an argument with a coworker and they call you a butthole. You're going to be like, somebody hold all of my things. I'm about to get fired.
Hold my beer. Yeah.
The difference in context of it is really what it comes down to. And again, you'll see that in like the queer, I mean, you'll see that in any community.
Yeah.
But you see it in the queer community. I've talked to some adults that are older than me, closer to like mom's age or even older, where I say something about like, oh yeah, I'm queer. And they're like, you shouldn't say that. I'm like, well, first of all, you're probably right. We'll get to that later.
Right. But you choose how you self-identify.
Well, and amongst me and my friends, that's, my other friends that are in the community, that's a word that we use often. That's a word the community has really started to take back because it's a very blanket. It just kind of throws out there like
it includes everybody.
I'm not like you necessarily,
right?
But I am like you. we're kind of on the same page here. And it can encompass gender and sexuality and like all the lovely, beautiful things in between. It encompasses like even just romantic interest versus sexual interest. It's
Well,
like,
at least you're in the same book, right? You
yeah,
might not be in the same chapter, but you're in the same book, and
we're in
it's
the
an
book
immediate
club and we're finally all
recognition.
in Oprah's pick, you know, like.
I would love to read that one. Yeah, I would read that one.
But that's, you know, that's
Wholeheartedly.
what I'm saying, you know.
Yeah.
We have that understanding. There's
Yes.
that cover of like, hey, we could be a safe place for each other, you know.
Right. Right.
So something I also like to touch on, and I throw this out there because it's not necessarily a conversation I've had, but it is something that I have noticed a lot. If you look at my name and like next to my name
Right.
itself, I have my pronouns listed out, and I have them in a specific order.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people in the queer community will do that, especially if it's like a non-binary or transgender individual who doesn't necessarily use specific cisgendered pronouns, so like the he and the she pronouns. You'll see I have those listed. Go for it. I dare you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care. But people tend to list them in the order in which they hope to be used.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I have they first. I do prefer if people refer to me as they, them, but as I've stated many times before, try and offend me using pronouns. Go for it. I don't care. Just don't be a jerk to me,
Mm-hmm.
and we can get it figured out. You know what I mean?
And it's not something that you go out and specify to people.
No, I just let them say whatever, because no matter what I say, there's going to be people who will constantly gender me a woman. Always, always. They will always gender me as a female.
And you've got a couple reasons for that.
I'd go with 3. But I'm aware as to why they do it.
Yeah.
That said, there's also a reason I have a tendency to dress in sometimes baggier clothing,
mm-hmm.
or I have a tendency to dress in things that are seen as like, oh, well, you know, just trying to look butch today. I'm like, yeah, thanks for noticing. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I sit down in my hairdresser's chair and I go, butch me up.
It's true.
That's why I've got the cut. It's great. I'm loving it. But if you meet somebody like online or in a place where their pronouns are listed out, just take note of what order they're in.
Right.
Because more often than not, to most people, it will make more sense if I put she, he, they.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that.
Right.
I prefer if people recognize that they is at the top of the list for me, and anything else, like, go for it.
Yeah.
Have fun. Yeah. Sprinkle them in conversation.
Right.
Salt bay it. I don't care. That was an old reference. That was a really old reference.
That was.
Do it.
That was funny. That was for me. So I will say there are people that will have questions, and I know with the people that you interact with mostly on a daily, there are some people that are better at the they concept than others. Mm-hmm. And for some people it's a habitual thing, right? I know I've come across that my own self, where I've met people as a certain a cisgender and then had to switch, and what seems like an abrupt switch, what I have as a cisgender woman, what I have appreciated is they know the difference between somebody attempting to use the right identity pronouns and somebody who slips and somebody who does it purposefully. So what I appreciate is if something gets screwed up and I say a she instead of he, or he instead of she, because my brain initially sees that person as it's a habitual thing. Right.
Or you met them, I should say.
Yes. Yeah. And however I met them. And if I stop and go, oh, sorry, and I switch, or I take the lead on that, because that's my responsibility, not their responsibility to change me. It's one of those where I acknowledge it, I switch, and I move on. I don't make a big deal. I don't, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's no different than if I do it to anybody. If I misgender anybody by accident, like you're tired or you just say whatever and you just go, oh God, sorry. And then you move on. Right. Well, Like, don't make a big damn deal out of it.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I'm sure people have heard it a million times, but it's crazy how many people still like work themselves up into a tizzy because they misgendered. And I'm like, okay, we get it. You're making it worse by dwelling on it. So just like move on.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I have a lot of trans friends. I really do.
Yeah.
And you know, some of them, like I've met some in high school and they didn't start transitioning until college. Some of them started transitioning in high school. Some of them I met in college and they told me after the fact and I was like, oh, lit. Some people I met in college and then they started transitioning and then it was like, cool, like great.
Right. You do you. Yeah.
And that's the thing though. I mean, within those myriads that I just described, I've had times where I've accidentally misgendered a friend and they are very like immediately it's like excuse me, but I'm like, oh god, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just misspoke. I'm fixing it now.
Right.
But I understand why some of my friends act that way because some of my friends who are transitioning do not have the most support. And so they're used to having to fight other friends or family members or something about it. Other friends, I accidentally misgender them, or hell, I hate it when I do this, but I've dead named them, and I feel so bad when I do it.
And immediately correct it. Course correct.
Yeah, you correct it and keep going. But you know, at the end of the conversation or something, I might be like, "Hey, seriously, sorry about that. Like, I really am." And usually they're like, "It's fine. You didn't mean to. I just told you my name yesterday."
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate.
And those of you out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is about the intent, right? It's no different than what we've talked about with our disability community and pride in the disabled have similar paths in the fact that
they're incredibly connected.
They're shunned, they're misrepresented. It's a similar battle, right? It is not the same, but it's similar in that regard. Anyway,
disabled queers can tell you that for sure,
and that's a story for another time. But it's about intent, right? And it is your intent to hurt or harm or dead name or upset people
or just disrespect them,
or is it purely accidental and you have tried to fix the problem and move on and you're
are you just trying to be a Richard, or are you trying to move on with your life? You know, like,
right.
Are you just doing this to upset somebody for the sake of upsetting them?
Right. And my heart always goes out to people who are undersupported, who have zero support. And it has always gone out. Hopefully you know that. It's as many people that as you said, that have transitioned or are transitioning or were trying to figure out who they wanted to be and who they were most comfortable in their own skin being growing up, that we were always a place where anybody could come and be whoever they were comfortable being in their body.
Just whoever they are.
Yeah, just be you.
Because it's not even always about like, oh, are you comfortable being this person? Do you want to be? No, it's who are you?
Yeah,
like,
just be you.
Who you are, man.
Yeah, you want to come in short shorts and booty shorts and fishnets. I feel that, girl.
I will still judge you to no end, but I've rocked that with myself. So,
so has your father. Let's be honest. I mean, that man's got legs for days.
So good in heels.
So,
man has calves.
And I grew up around the community and in the community and with people who were inviting to the LGBTQ plus community. And I think knowing what I knew as a kid, as a human, that I'm hoping helped everybody else in our little community be more open and honest about who they are.
Well, and there's,
I'm not saying I ain't judgy. I judge.
Judgy. but
she's so judgy.
But
it's not based on who you are as
what you do.
Exactly.
It's what you do, or
I'm gonna judge your stupid choices. Yes.
If you do things in a way that she thinks is stupid, you will hear about it until you're dead.
Yeah, but I don't care how you identify. You can identify as a lizard. I don't care. But if you do stupid things, I'm gonna laugh and judge. Yeah.
Well, but the other thing even to, I guess, consider is and I hate it. I hate so much that this discussion will always sound so inherently political because people have politicized it. But it is a very scary time to be LGBT.
Absolutely.
It is a freaking terrifying time to be queer where we are. And I am so proud of all my friends who are out and proud.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of all my friends who know it's better for them to stay safe right now.
Absolutely.
And maybe not come out, at least not super publicly. And I'm so proud of all my friends who are allies who want to support us in the community, because the long and short of it is you don't have to understand it. You don't have to understand it. You just have to be willing to go, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Great, cool, awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, because trying to understand it before you accept it or acknowledge it or any of that fun stuff, if you're a cisgender individual, you won't get it.
Right.
You don't know. The closest I can think of that you would come to knowing would be if you, I mean, at least for like non-binary or transgender individual, anybody who falls under my little trans umbrella here, the closest thing I can liken it to is if you have a disability that makes you feel uncomfortable in your body. And that we'll touch on more next time. So I'm gonna leave it at that for right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't have to understand what it's like to be pining for somebody your own gender, or who like trying to figure out what your deal is, or why you may not be attracted to people, or why you think things differently than your like friends do or whatever. You don't have to understand that.
Right.
To be like, okay, well, you're still my friend.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, this is it, as we talked about, it's very divisive right now. And unfortunately, the LGBTQA plus community has been around as long as there have been human beings on this planet.
Talk to the ancient Greeks.
And I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. LGBTQ plus A people have been around as long as there have been human beings on the planet. So we are never, ever going to eradicate these beautiful humans. So stop trying to do that. Don't come at me in comments, because any one of those people is welcome here. And I mean on this podcast, I mean in my home, I mean in my community. I'm a better, stronger person because of all of these people. I'm a more creative person because of all of these people.
And I find the rainbow.
Yeah, and I will say it, and it's the cross I will die on, that some of the best people that I love in the world are in the LGBTQ plus A community, and the world would be a dimmer place without them. So,
as we're getting heavy today, folks.
Yeah, well, but the only reason I will say that, and I will keep saying that as a cisgender woman, I know that my struggle in life is real, and I don't have the fear. And the only way I can describe it for cisgender people is it would be like having the fear of getting mugged every day of your life until you die. And what I mean by mugged is robbed, beaten, on the street, left to die.
And if you have certain types of anxiety, you know what we're talking about.
That is a real fear for real people every day. It is never a fear here. So know you have a safe place. Just know that.
And again, I know that we're probably going to face some kind of backlash on this
I don't
episode
care. I don't
because
care.
we're talking about it. I just,
Yeah.
But I also
Yeah.
promised last time that I would talk about some of my favorite queer YouTubers
Yes.
who are doing their best to put some good and vibes out there just to make
Once
people
again,
happy.
they don't need our support. God knows.
No, they don't.
You're one of the 26 people that are listening, following, and whatever, and you share us with your friends. Go check these people out if you've never heard of them because you live under a rock.
Even if you have heard of them, still go check them out.
Yeah, go
because they're
check them out.
funny.
And Jezebel's,
But
love them.
one of the, I mean, you can account to this. One of the YouTubers that I follow so much is Thomas Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Sanders. He is just so good, and he's just very like he's just a funny guy. A lot of you guys, at least a lot of y'all my age, would probably know him from Vine as the Storytime guy.
Yeah, Storytime guy.
Yeah, Storytime. So, but if you go to his YouTube channel, every Pride Month for the past few years, he has gotten a group of his friends together, and they've scrolled through Twitter and answered questions and just talked about kind of their experiences, their lived experiences, and not all of them are good.
Mm-mm.
But they share those experiences and they answer questions and they just talk generally about, what it's like, how they found their identity, what brought them where.
Right.
Some episodes they talk about their biggest supporters, and sometimes they talk about, like, yeah, that was a really rough time for me,
Yeah.
But you can find those videos on his channel because it's something that's so important to him and his friends because, well, queers of a feather flock together. So so it just turns into, we have a platform to talk about this. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily queer YouTubers, but they very much support the community. Critical Role.
Yeah.
Every Pride Month they come out with a Pride shirt. Yeah. And even when it's not Pride Month, they come out with subtle Pride shirts. Obviously always tied back to the show. Yeah. But they are fierce allies within the LGBT community because, they're a bunch of weird, eccentric voice actors who play Dungeons and Dragons for like half of what they do for a living. They're voice actors, but they play Dungeons and Dragons online.
Yes, and in the Pride shirt discussion, which I know we're going to talk about in a later show, but Pride merch. I'm going to leave it at this. Just be wary who you're purchasing Pride merch from. That's all. That's what I'm going to say right now.
Yeah, because like you said, we'll cover it in a later episode for sure.
Yeah.
But that said, Thomas Sanders does also have a store where 90% of the stuff is either subtle pride or it just straight up says could be gayer. Like that's the phrase on the shirt.
Could be. Yeah, could be gayer. That's one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
He's got like a million things that say that, but that's his thing.
That is his thing. Yeah.
Like I said, he's just a really good, just a really nice place to be. His channel is just a really good place to be because he talks about that and he's just vulnerable and like in general about who he is, what he does, how he does it. Yeah. So like just really cool all around.
One of my other favorite. I know I'm on TikTok, y'all. But
she's on TikTok more than I am.
It's true. I'm on the Tickety Talk. Which drives you crazy that I do that. The Tickety Talk.
There it is.
But there's several that I know she's got more YouTubers coming, but that she follows. But on TikTok, there are several that she and I both follow that we absolutely adore. And one person, he does a lot of cooking. And you know who I'm talking about, right?
Dylan Hollis.
Yeah. And he is so awesome. And his journey has been so great. And it really started during COVID, right? And his journey has been pretty darn amazing to watch and witness on as an outsider. But he's super fabulous. And if you like cooking at all, you're going to find a recipe in there that he does. He does old recipes because during COVID, he was going through all these old recipe books and he likes to cook. And he found, he just found his little niche. And he's amazing. He's amazing and amazingly talented, but he's amazing. So,
well, in his YouTube channel, he has kind of more in-depth videos about it, or like comparison type videos. So I'm gonna try this recipe versus this one. Really cool stuff.
Yeah. What's another YouTuber you like?
Several.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're just looking even for I'm gonna go with gentle queer representation. It's a podcast, but you know, obviously they have a YouTube channel. Welcome to Night Vale.
Mm-hmm.
Solid representation in there. You know, it's just about this. You
And
don't know.
that's been around for a long time.
Oh yeah, it's been around since like 2012.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Great stories, though. Great
well,
stories.
it's if you don't know what it is, it's about kind of this desert other world that
Mm-hmm.
may or may not exist. We're really not sure. And the narrator is the radio host in Night Vale. You know, it's just Cecil doing his thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, they have a lot of just really subtle representation in there. And people might not be like, sometimes people are like, it's not subtle. Okay, it is. He just very casually mentions his boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, it's subtle.
Yeah. Yes.
But
go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, you said like it's been around since 2012, and
yeah, that's when they started.
It's had some really.
It's kind of in a valley right now.
It had a huge push for a while, and then it kind of valleyed, and then during COVID again, it pushed again. Kind of like all the reruns that everybody found again on Netflix and such during COVID. But it had a huge surge, and it's kind of in a little valley right now. But it's really cool. It's it's subtle, but it's still there. And if you need subtle, because there's people out there that just need subtle. You know, it's kind of like watching Strange World on Disney. It's subtle, y'all. Stand down. It's fine. But yeah.
Follow up really quickly as well, though. Do not listen to Night Vale if you're driving at night and very tired, because he's got a great mellow voice, and you will fall asleep.
You'll get road sleepy,
man.
You'll get road sleepy. Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, if you want to go with your classic queer YouTube situation, Daniel Howell. He came out with a video 2 years ago. I'll have to Google it. A year ago or 2 years ago, where he officially came out on YouTube. Like, I mean, you know, people had, of course, been speculating and saying for years and all this stuff, but he made a video. It's called Basically I'm Gay.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just short of an hour, and it is a fantastic video.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing. But it's a reminder to people that, okay, the internet might speculate, and they may be right, they may not be right, but he's been on the internet for years now. I mean, like, he started making videos in general back on like MySpace.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know.
That's a way throwback.
Emo as hell. Love it.
So
but he's taken hiatuses from YouTube too, because it can be a lot. It gets to be too much.
Mental health is important, man.
He did not. He wasn't trying to put his sexual orientation at the forefront of what he was doing.
Right.
And that's part of the reason, you know, that I kind of liked his videos. I've never been a huge like Dan and Phil fan. Come for me later. But that's why I kind of liked his more recent content, though, is because okay, he came out, but his channel's still not about that.
Right. So say his name one more time.
Dan Howell.
Yeah.
Most of y'all out there, again, especially my age, know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, and for parents out there, go watch it. Go watch it. And for parents out there, as a parent, the things that I can tell you that are helpful from my perspective, it's one person's perspective, number one. Number two, as somebody who raised 4 children who are totally different from each other and yet not. Mm-hmm. All of their experiences were different growing up because they're different people. But the best thing I can tell you is educate your own self. Don't expect your people to educate you any more than you would have expected them to do it when they were little children and you were the adult. You know, read, look at things, research, and see what good questions you can ask them, because sometimes the best time to ask a question is not a question and answer, sit down, let's have a family meeting. It's over dinner, or it's in the car driving somewhere. I think Joy and I have some of our best conversations making dinner or in the car going somewhere.
I can't go anywhere at those times. I cannot escape.
That's not true.
Oh, right. I'll just chuck myself out the car. Good luck, old lady.
Well, your brother tried it once.
Blinding.
Your brother tried that once when I could drive. He said something snarky, and I said, "Hey, get out of my car." He said some pun that was bad, and I went, "Get out of my car!" And he literally goes, "Okay." But he did not jump. He's still alive. I swear to God.
I want to
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I want to build on what you're saying, because, like, yes, please educate yourself.
Yeah.
But also, just because you educated yourself does not mean you know what
all of the things,
what the kid's gonna say.
Yeah.
And by saying something along the lines of, well, I know because I looked this up. That's great. You looked it up from one person on their blog from 2009. Yeah. Fun fact, the queer community's changed since then.
A lot.
Just
even since pre-COVID, post-COVID, it's changed so much. Yeah.
I got a couple other, because you just made me think about it. One really good video I saw recently, because happy Pride. One really good video I saw recently was, we talked about it last time, on the React channel.
Yeah.
And it was, they had some of their LGBT reactors come in and watch coming out videos from like TikTok and stuff. And of course, they only showed them the good ones, because otherwise everybody'd be mad.
It's triggering. Yeah.
But they showed them like the good ones, and like there's some really solid positive reactions.
Yes.
In those videos. So like, even go check that out, because it could give you half a clue on what to do if your kid ever comes out to you.
And if you don't know this, older people, you have a search capability on TikTok. All you have to do is type in, and it'll pull up videos for you to watch.
As long as they're hashtagged.
Yeah, just be careful, because, there's sides of TikTok you might not want to be on. I personally don't care where I end up, but...
You are not an other.
No, I'm not another.
But that's a story for another time.
Another time. But I'm going to ask, and I don't think I've ever asked this of you before, so I'm putting you on the spot. Have you...
edit it out later.
Yeah, well, she's down the hall. I'll get yelled at. So have you overall felt that you were accepted for who you are in your house?
For the most part, yeah. They have a really weird like hang up on my anger issues, but other than that...
She was born like a 90-year-old really pissed off old man.
Everything gets me mad.
like it's like she literally was born with the anger of a 90-year-old man. Get off my lawn.
No, listen, everything gets me...
She's got her pants up underneath her bosoms and her socks up to her knees.
But when I get to like mad, it's an issue. But that's also a story for another time.
Recognize, sister. No, and I say that jokingly. But other than that, I think
overall, yeah. I mean, I love you, Dad, but you get very confused very easily when I try to explain things to you. But I appreciate it because you make an effort.
He does.
You always make an effort, and I appreciate that.
Does not understand a lot. He does not always understand, but he does try.
A fine example of he doesn't understand, and yet here I am.
But he tries. He tries
really hard.
And I'll throw him under the bus. He's a
really good trier.
Yeah, he is. His biggest hang up is the pronoun they, referring to one
pronoun they,
but
in a singular sense.
But we work on it, because when we are out, say, in public. So for those of you who have an issue with this is how I explain it to him. It may work for you, it may not. So if we were out if the two of us were out at a restaurant and I got up to go to the restroom and you were still at the table, if your server comes up and says, "Are you ready for your order?" Typically we say, "No, they went to the bathroom. They'll be back in a minute." That's a singular. They went to the bathroom. They will be back in a minute.
Some people actually do gender it. Oh, she went to the bathroom. She'll be back.
Some don't. Or if you are sitting at a table and you're waiting for someone, a server will say, "Are you waiting for someone?" "Oh, they'll be here in a minute."
Or even my favorite servers saying, "Are they on their way?"
They on their way. It's still a singular because
Or
they don't know.
for people who want to deny me on everything else, it's also one of those where, you know, you're walking in and don't tell me you've never seen an androgynous person in your life. You're lying to me.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where they come up, they may say hi to a friend or family member or whatever that you're hanging out with, and then all of a sudden you're like, who are they? Who's that?
Who are they? Mm-hmm. Who are they?
Who are they?
Who is that? Who are they? Yeah.
Your reaction isn't, who is she? I mean, it might be, but for the most part, people, I've noticed a lot of people don't necessarily reactionarily say that. I'm using it as a word.
We're moving on.
Say, like, who is she? They'll be like, who is that? Or who are they?
Yeah.
You know?
Or
you know what? If it makes you better to call me it, go for it. I'm going for the Addams Family vibes, all right?
Yeah. I tend to say things like if I'll use your father again for an example. I'm sorry, honey. I keep using you as an example. If we're out in public, your father doesn't remember people. So for those of you who think he's like, hey, you know, he doesn't remember you. I'll say, who was that? Do you know that person? That person. Do you know that person? It's still a singular for it's. Who is that person? I don't know. Okay. He doesn't know anybody. Don't take offense. He really doesn't. He knows like 4 people.
He tries really hard.
He knows like 4 people.
It's the name recall. It doesn't always.
Yeah. Or he'll say, I thought you knew them.
But he uses them in that situation.
I thought you knew them. Or I thought you knew that.
But that's the thing is when people do have an issue with using they, them as a singular, you notice it's only an issue when you have to think about it.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I get it. It's one of my pretensions is the English language. But one of my pretensions is the English language. So, using things out of context. And I've had a lot of English teachers, English professors from college. Rain. It's going to rain.
First day, new teeth. Anyway.
But I've had, teachers who are like, it took me a while to get used to it, but then I realized people do it colloquially all the time.
Once again, they, them has been around as long as English language has been around in a singular sense. It's one of those things that we are noticing, but it's been around forever, right?
And I don't fault you if you don't like using they, them. Like, I'm not going to be like.
But if you're going to try to use it, let's try to use it right.
That's kind of my thing, yeah, and adjusting a sentence instead of saying like, oh, she's at the movies. You could be like, they're at the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it plural. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And someone's like, oh, are they with somebody? And it's just like, no, it's just them.
Yeah. It's really easy just if you take out the gender and make it neutral, it's amazingly easy once you get used to it. And most people don't get offended by that.
And it also makes it easier if you haven't had the chance to ask somebody's pronouns or if you aren't sure how somebody identifies or whatever. It's also easier to just be like, oh, yeah, they blah, 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 blah. And then it's like you can have that conversation later, or you just keep using they, them pronouns because 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to clock you on it. They're just going to be like, whatever.
They're not. And I will also, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, look for the clues in the conversation. If you're meeting somebody new, like through a mutual friend or something, and they keep using they, them pronouns for the person, slide it over to they, them pronouns. Or if they're emphasizing, like, because people will start to emphasize it whether they realize it or not. Like, well, he went to the store the other day.
Right.
Oh, did they? Yes, he did. And they're like, oh, okay. And they'll just start switching.
And especially if they're new with a new pronoun, they're going to use it a lot. So you start to use it. Things I've noticed. Now, I will say for the devil's advocate side out there, for those of you who are going to try and come at us, if you're one of those people, this helped explain it to people as well. If you're one of those people where you're walking your dog and somebody misgenders your dog and you get mad about it, but you don't understand that people get upset when you misgender them, maybe you should rethink some things. Because if you're a person who immediately, if somebody's walking your dog and they say he and you have a she dog and you go, oh, it's she, then that's a sensitive subject for you. You need to meditate on that. And then you need to remember it's just as important for humans as it is. Dogs don't care how you gender them. They don't. They don't care.
They're gonna lick their butt anyways.
Right. They're going to lick all the things and then want to lick your face. So at least humans can tell you, no, thank you. Gender me correctly. So if that is an important point for you and you're like, well, blah, 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 but if somebody misgenders your dog, you get your panties in a bunch, maybe you should rethink. That's my divisive moment.
And I'd also like to point out too, for all the allies, all the aspiring allies, if you're sitting here and you're like, well, I don't understand how I fit into all this other than just being like, good job, support, I'll gender you correctly. Trans people are notoriously bad at self-advocacy, especially when it comes to pronouns and especially when it's new to them.
Mm-hmm.
I preach to my trans friends how important it is for them to advocate when their friends or family members aren't around. And I mean, yeah, it's easier said than done, because
if you're in an unsafe environment, it's hard. Yeah.
Well, and when I started even broaching the subject of shifting my pronouns, I told 3 people, none of whom were my family, and I was like, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to do me a favor. Can you use these pronouns for me for the next month or so, whether I'm there or not? Could you just do me a favor and try? And I have a friend who's really bad about it.
Yes.
It's not because she means to be. It's just because she doesn't always think before she just starts talking.
Right.
Love her to death anyways. I will not name you on this podcast, but
we're not calling you out for bad things.
No, she tries really hard though. She really does. And if I'm around and she accidentally misgenders a friend of ours and I correct, she's like, right, sorry. She corrects it and then she keeps going.
Right.
Inevitably 2 sentences later she does it again. But she tried.
She try. Yeah.
But I told 3 of my friends and I said, for the next month I need you to do me a favor and do this. And in the line of work that I do, I'm HR for the most part. I have a tendency to use myself in stories or anecdotes to get people to understand what I'm talking about. And there were times when I would, be doing that and I'd be like, oh, well, Joy was late for work. And one of my friends goes, they, and I'm like, they, like, they had to correct me for my own self because I'm not used to it. I wasn't used to it.
Right.
So it's doing that. And then remembering, even if you've already been advocating for your friends forever, you still need to tell people and remind them as much as you remind yourself, hey, these are the pronouns I want to use. Mm-hmm. These are my pronouns.
Right.
I need you to use these pronouns. So it's it becomes a thing. And it is weird switching or shifting or adjusting.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like me and you say, I don't really care, because people, again, 9 times out of 10 are going to stick with what they see.
Or what they're used to.
What they're used to as well, yeah.
They're used
to. Telling people that I've known for 20 years, hey, by the way, I need you to do this. They're like...
Now, I have attempted to ask everybody what they preferred. Mm-hmm. And I know that in our house, it was, you're fine, stick with what you have, or if you think about it, shift or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's been fluid is the best way I know to put it. And I think part of that is for convenience sake. But we also have a wild household where pronouns are really used for others to understand who we're talking about, because around here we tend to just use names a lot, oddly. We're not that proper. It's not like, oh, Joy, everybody's got a nickname around here. It's weird.
If you ever hear me in this house, it's probably me going, Ma.
Yeah. So it's a lot of names. And I say your dad a lot. And
that's really, really do.
I say your dad.
Or you should just call him by his name.
Or I say honey. Yeah. Or I do call him by his name. And that goes back for me to she's got older siblings that have a different dad. So I always said your dad to specify who's dad.
Or his
But
name.
or his name. Yeah. So even in text, I'll say your dad instead of just dad. I think I just texted dad to Jer the other day, and he was like,
It's weird.
What the hell is that? Like I felt the uncomfortable in that.
Where if she just texts dad, we're like, is he okay? What just
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah. So but your dad. But yeah, so it's one of those where we have worked on identifiers and language throughout their lives, right? Language has always been important in our household because it identified not just the person, but for the outsiders. Once again, we all have J names except for my husband, so it was very specific on who you were speaking of. So names were used a lot, and as opposed to genders, I think, even because we have a 10-year gap in between kids, right? So from
from oldest to youngest, yeah.
Oldest to youngest is a 10-year gap. So I have 2 olders and 2 youngers, and there's 8 years between the second and the third kid because I'm dumb. And so we had older people and little people, right? So we had the big people and the little people, or the older people and the younger people.
I'm still one of the little people at times.
Yeah. So sometimes, and like I said it the other day,
than the village people.
Yeah, I said it the other day to somebody. I'm like, I should probably not call them the little people anymore. They're in they're pretty much mid-20s at this point. So they're still youngish adults, but so we did a lot of identifying in different ways, right? So hopefully that was helpful when people were starting to figure out how they wanted to identify. It's like I can identify any way I need to, because it's just another way to identify me as opposed to the way to identify me, right?
Well, yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so. But then again, I grew up in that.
Right. I mean,
brain.
Well, and we also, which I hope helped, and you can voice this better than I can, is that we, there were several foundational principles in our house that that we hung on to. Like, once again, words only have power if you give them power, right? So if somebody calls you a name, if somebody calls you smart, if you choose that as a positive, that's up to you. If somebody calls you a smart aleck, if you choose to consider that
smart
a bad, yes, if you consider that a compliment, good for you. And if you consider that a burn, then or a negative,
boom night.
Right. Do you know what I mean? So the power of that language was based on how you perceived it, not how they gave it to you, right? But we use that with nerd, and we use that with gamer, and we use that with the slurs, and we use that with everything. The power is
not all slurs. I want to throw that out. You're just like screaming slurs around the house for
no. But if you came home from school and you said, somebody called me this, and this is how I reacted. Like, somebody called me a witch using the B word, and I said thank you, and it threw them off. You know what I mean? I'm like, yes, I am a powerful woman. Thank you so much.
Oh, see, I would get called a bench a lot at school.
Yes.
At a certain point, it became a nickname, and I was just like, "See you later, chief."
Yeah, but having said that, that was a foundation. The foundation is words are only powerful if you choose to give them that power. The other part to that is my identity is several little nuggets of things. Not one is not any bigger than the other. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, I'm a lover, I'm a fighter, I'm a whatever, all those, the song goes, right? I'm
different words,
right, but
different songs. I was going more like, I'm a picker, I'm a grinner, I'm a
lover,
yeah.
But I'm all those things, right? So and all those little nuggets make a person. But just because one person calls me a slur, or one person thinks I'm a certain way, that doesn't make all of me that way. It's just a little bit of who I am, and put all those things together is a real big thing about who I am as a person. So in this Pride Month, I'm so glad the LGBTQ plus community is out there, but know that you are, all of you makes up this wonderful person. Not little tiny bits of you are any more important than any other. Does that make sense?
Yes, but that said, I do want to put the caveat. If a lot of people keep saying the same word, that's
Anger.
considered a consensus at that point. All right.
Anger.
You are that way. All right. If it's
Angry.
the word is abrasive, okay? Get it together.
Yeah.
That is the workplace appropriate way of saying they got some problems. It's not really abrasive.
Well, she ain't the only one that's been called abrasive at work.
Specialty. But
yeah.
I stand by it.
You're welcome.
Several people make it a consensus.
Yeah, and you should probably check into that.
One more, because I was going to get to it earlier, and then we
sorry.
No, I was just going to say one more YouTube channel for the
I'm so sorry
out there. I was saving it for close to last for a reason. 1/2 really, but WoW presents incredibly gay.
Yes.
It's that drag queen hub. For y'all who don't know it, is that drag queen hub. RuPaul's Drag Race stuff up in here.
Trixie and Katya,
of course, Trixie and Katya's show. I can never spell it right, but it's like I know, but it's got like 3 N's and like 5 H's or something like that.
Yeah,
if you
just Google Trixie
on
and Katya. Yeah.
Even if you try and type it in,
people
have exaggerated it like a bunch. You can still find it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy.
And next week we should talk about when we met them.
We can talk about that next week.
Oh yeah, they are so fantastic.
But like I said, if you're looking for ways to educate yourself or for a safe space on the internet or anything like that, a lot of the channels that I just that I kind of told you about throughout this episode, I personally think that they've been really good places to be. And even if they don't necessarily focus on specifically like the topic of LGBT relations, ideas, anything like that, just know that they're a safe place to be. And it is because I watch them because it's a way for me to just be like, I'm gonna go there for a little. I'm gonna hang out with them for a bit, It's like going to hang out with your friends, you're just like, I know I can be here and I know I can be okay here, so I'm gonna just do that.
And
it's okay.
Hopefully
everything's okay.
Next week or next episode we can talk a little bit more maybe about some more YouTube people out there. I know there's more. There's so many more.
There's always going to be more. Those are some of my favorites.
We could talk about a few more of those.
And if you guys have any suggestions, leave them in the comment section below.
Absolutely. And y'all, don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends. And we're going to be hitting more about disability pride. We don't have merch
We're talking gay stuff this week.
Gay stuff,
and probably the week after that.
And it's not just because it's June, but y'all need to know who we are and who we are.
Let me have my month.
And it's just the way it is. So we're going to talk more about this next week. So share with your friends. Thanks, randos, again. We love y'all. And I think that's all I got. What you got, girl?
Basically just kind of what we've already said already. We see you guys. We love you guys. Again, if you just want to hang out with us every week, you sure as hell can. We're not going anywhere, at least not anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah, I live down the hall from her. I'm not going anywhere.
Knock on wood. But I mean, just thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you back. And I know you want me to say it, so I'm going to say it. We're queer, and see us here next week for another episode of The Blithe and the Blind.
Bye, guys.